Welcome back, everybody. Today we're talking about what might be the biggest business trend in 2025. And honestly, it really shouldn't come as a surprise. A lot of the talk over the past year has been about AI, and there's been a lot of skepticism about the amount of capex the companies are spending and the ROI or lack thereof that they're getting for that spend. So in this video, we're going to go over the latest on the CapEx spend plan for 2025, talk about how it's going to help drive the biggest business trend of the year and how we should be preparing for it. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, Microsoft was just in the news recently because they announced they would be spending $80 billion in CapEx in 2025.
Microsoft says it plans to spend about $80 billion in its fiscal year, which ends this June, to build out artificial intelligence. This announcement was actually tucked into a blog post from Microsoft President Brad Smith, who published it today coinciding with the start of the new Congress. He lays out some ideas in that blog post for the U.S. to lead in artificial intelligence. But back to the spending. This was not a surprise. Microsoft previously said to expect more than $20 billion in quarterly CapEx spending on artificial intelligence for the rest of the fiscal year. This is, though, the first time Microsoft is sharing a hard number on how much it plans to spend. To put these numbers in perspective here, Google says it spent $49 billion, Amazon spent $65 billion, and Meta has spent $31 billion in the 4 trailing quarters that we have data for. We'll get the December quarter numbers for all of those companies when they report earnings here in a few weeks.
And actually, this is something that we've talked about before on this channel, because my main talking point when adding NVIDIA back in March of last year was that I didn't see the AI infrastructure build out as being done, and I saw it as just beginning, with all these cash-rich and financially strong big tech companies all trying to outrace and outcompete each other for accelerated computing chips and hardware. But most of what we've seen up to this point has been more about generative AI, which obviously is a trend that I think is going to continue, but I think that's also driving a lot of the questions about where's the ROI going to come from, because it's a little less clear how that generates sales.
Despite all this spending, AI is still not a big business for Microsoft. The company says it's on track to generate $10 billion in AI-related sales this year. So if you're keeping score, that means you have Microsoft planning to spend $80 billion to generate $10 billion in AI sales. Still unclear how well products like Copilot are selling, and Microsoft has never disclosed sales figures for that, nor does it tell us much of how much AI spending is happening on its Azure cloud. It only says how much AI contributes to the growth of Azure. No whole numbers there yet. As we learned last year, investors have some real concern over when all this spending on AI CapEx is going to pay off. That's not just Microsoft. Those are the other big tech companies as well. CEO Satya Nadella and CFO Amy Hood have said they can dial back the spending if demand for AI slips, but for now, they just can't meet all the demand and the spending keeps going up.
And I think this is a really key point, because we tend to talk about these ideas in a very broad way and we lump all these companies together, but each one of these companies is unique, and some are going to have a much clearer path to increased efficiency or increased revenue than others will. Now, obviously, Amazon, Microsoft, and Google are providing cloud services, so they have to be able to support all the other companies that are trying to build something that's related to AI, whether or not those companies building those related services are going to end up being winners or not. But then you have other companies like Meta who are already seeing increased ad revenue due to AI-driven ad targeting and improved overall ad performance. But even then, I think that's a relatively tame benefit compared to what we'll probably start seeing in 2025. And that big business trend that I'm talking about is robotics.
If 2024 was the year of kind of compute build out and the rollout of AI systems in software, I think 2025 will be the year of the robot. You know, there's a company we just placed an order today, actually, out of China called Unitree. Gavin, have you looked at this company?
Yeah, it's pretty wild, actually.
It's an incredible business, incredible product. So their GO2 robot is $1,600, has an API. Here it is. You can run a payload on it. It's got LiDAR on it. It's got kind of intelligence guidance systems on it. This is the robot system that was used on some of those videos we looked at earlier this year where there were machine guns mounted to the back, and it was basically a new kind of field soldier. It's an autonomous field soldier. But really, you can use it in scientific applications. We're looking at using them in our on our test farms, where it can wander the farm and take images and report data back to us. And it's such a low cost at like less than $3,000. You can do some incredible things with it.
Now, I touched on robotics a little bit in my Tesla video when they demoed Optimus. And while what they showed was a cool glimpse into the possible future, what I think is more interesting is a tech like Unitree that's available today at a relatively cheap price, at least from a business standpoint, and is programmable to do any number of things. Because what you're going to see now is companies getting creative at bringing the power of AI and programmable hardware into the physical world to actually do something, which can drive improved speed, improved safety, and likely reduced cost. And so when you start talking about return on investment, now that's a conversation that all of a sudden becomes a lot clearer. And not only that, it expands a potential benefit outside of just the tech companies like Nvidia and Broadcom or Google and Meta to now just about every company in the world. Because what could companies like Walmart or McDonald's or even Waste Management do with relatively cheap hardware that doesn't get tired, doesn't cost a lot, and is now able to reliably perform more complex functions? And it doesn't just have to be about cutting costs or cutting jobs. It can also be about innovating in the business and driving growth in ways that they just weren't able to do before. And to probably no one's surprise, one of the companies trying to take advantage of this the most is Amazon.
I'm here in Shreveport, Louisiana, inside Amazon's fulfillment center that just opened a couple of months ago. This is the first time national media has been inside. With me now is Chief Technologist Ty Brady. Ty, what is happening here that's not happening anywhere else in the world?
Here we have 10 times the amount of robotics as compared to any of our other fulfillment centers. We can process your order 25% faster and offer a 25% lower cost to serve, which means that we can pass along that low cost to our customers.
We first took you inside the Boston lab where these systems were being tested. This holiday, thousands of these robots are now fully operational, including Sparrow, Cardinal, Sequoia, Robin, and Proteus. This is Proteus. As you can see, it's carrying a bunch of Amazon items ready for delivery, and it has little eyes on its face, and it can sense when we're close to it. It'll chirp and stop when it notices people are in the way. Please, carry on. It looks like a Roomba on steroids, but these robots work on the floor, and when there aren't enough of them, human workers push and pull those heavy carts. Brady says the future will never be fully automated because people need to design and program the robots and keep them running.
And now I will say robotics has existed for a very long time, and it's separate from AI. Like, those are two different things. But what we're starting to see now is the progression of robotics to become more autonomous and perform more complex functions as AI capabilities get better and more integrated. And it's something that you can see even in Jensen Huang's recent announcement for the Jetson Nano.
Ladies and gentlemen, our brand new AI computer. Look at this. I think I might have cooked it a little bit too long. It shrunk. The little tiny Jetson Nano. Little Orin computer. This thing that's really amazing is that a long time ago, starting with Xavier, you guys might have known, that we created a brand new type of processor. It was a robotics processor. Nobody understood what we were building at the time. And we imagined that someday these deep learning models would evolve and we would have, robots of all kinds. Everything that moves would be robotic. And now here we are. We're seeing all kinds of amazing robots. Robots on wheels, robots on legs, 2 legs, 3 legs. And of course, general humanoid robotics are nearly upon us. This is a brand new Jetson Nano Super. Almost 70 trillion operations per second. 25 watts. And $249.
And just by watching these videos, you can tell this trend is obvious. Like, the ability to do more complex calculations in a smaller form factor for very cheap just means that the amount of innovation and experimentation in this space is just going to explode. And I think we're going to see a lot of it in 2025. So if all that's true, then what should we be doing to prepare for it? Now, number one, as investors, I'm not just going to rattle off a bunch of company names for you to go invest in. There's a bunch of robotics companies out there, and ones that I've looked at in the past, but like many of the semiconductor and AI names, they've run up quite a bit from a valuation standpoint. But I think what's more interesting here is to look at existing strong companies that have massive opportunities to become more efficient with robotics, because those companies may present the best opportunity since they'll be driving bottom line improvements into an already established brand and business model, as opposed to you trying to pick the winner in a nascent industry. But honestly, I don't even think investing is the biggest opportunity for us when it comes to this trend. I think a lot of times we miss the fact that we should look at the other side of our finances, not so much about what to invest in, but how we can embrace these trends to be able to help us earn more income and make a living. Because look, a lot of people out there talk about how AI companies are a bubble and it's all nonsense, but the reality is clear that this trend is coming. And there's obviously going to be jobs that are impacted by it, but I'm a firm believer that if you embrace these type of trends and you try to get ahead of them, then it acts as kind of a dual benefit to where, yes, it should help with self-preservation, but it can also be a catalyst to supercharge your income because you're one of the first people in your industry or in your group that's really embracing it and understanding what it's about. So while you could definitely look at stocks to invest in to try to take advantage of the trend overall, I would also recommend you look at ways you can learn and apply these things to your own career, because that may end up being the biggest ROI you could possibly get from it. So what do you guys think about the application of robotics being the biggest trend this year? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you missed my video on what I think big tech's going to do in 2025, you can watch that by clicking this video right here. Hope you guys have a great day out there. Financial independence is true freedom. So keep building and stacking wins, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.